Most of the time, movie cameos are a fun way to put familiar faces in front of audiences, even if it's only for a moment or two. Usually, the whole point of a cameo is that we'll recognize the famous person in front of us, but sometimes directors get a bit sneaky. They hide famous faces behind masks, makeup, and CGI, and sometimes they just put them in roles you wouldn't expect. And yeah, sure, this might negate the purpose of having an extra celebrity or two in the movie, but it also creates some fun Easter eggs for fans to discover. Here are 10 sneaky movie cameos that slipped by you. Edward Norton in Kingdom of Heaven. Orlando Bloom is the star of Ridley Scott's Crusades epic Kingdom of Heaven, but he's not the only big name in the cast. In addition to Liam Neeson, Eva Green, and Jeremy Irons, Kingdom of Heaven also features an uncredited Edward Norton as Jerusalem's King Baldwin IV. The reason you may not have noticed this? The historical King Baldwin suffered from leprosy, and he always wore a mask in public. So you guessed it, Norton played the entire role behind a metal mask. Then he requested that his name be taken off the credits so it wouldn't be spoiled, but he couldn't keep it a secret for too long. Most critics thought he gave the best performance in the movie. Tim Burton in Hoffa. You may remember Danny DeVito's grotesque performance as the Penguin in Batman Returns, but that wasn't the only movie the height challenge DeVito made that year. He also directed the gangster comedy Hoffa, starring Jack Nicholson as the famous Union boss who disappeared under mysterious circumstances in 1962. For a funeral scene, DeVito needed someone to play a dead body lying in a coffin. So who did he choose? His Batman Returns director, Tim Burton, with his famously wild hair tamed down as the well-coiffed corpse. We certainly hope DeVito cast Burton as a friend, and not as some kind of morbid commentary about their professional relationship. Gene Hackman in Young Frankenstein. Comedy legends Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder made 3 movies together: The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein. But neither of them had a particularly extensive track record working with that other famous Gene Hackman. Nevertheless, Hackman made a memorable cameo as a blind priest in Young Frankenstein. Not being able to see Frankenstein's monster's grotesque appearance, the priest welcomes him into his home. But despite his best intentions, the kindly old priest ends up doing more damage to the monster than the other way around. At the time, Hackman was more known for thrillers like The French Connection and The Conversation, so it must have been a shock for audiences to find out that it was him behind the fake beard and wig.
Where are you going? I was gonna make espresso.
Famous musicians in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Originally, Scottish rock band Franz Ferdinand was meant to play the Weird Sisters, a band that performs at the Yule Ball in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. But when they dropped out, a hodgepodge of famous British musicians took over for them. Jason Buckle of All Seeing Eye and Steve Caden of Add N2X play rhythm guitar and bagpipes, while Johnny Greenwood and Phil Selway of Radiohead fill in as lead guitarist and drummer. Meanwhile, Jarvis Cocker and Steve Mackey of Pulp cover vocals and bass for the Wizarding Band. Previously, the Stone Roses' Ian Brown made a cameo in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban as a bar patron. Who knew the Wizarding world was so musical? Richard Branson in Casino Royale. Richard Branson, the British business magnate behind the ubiquitous Virgin brand, makes a brief appearance in the James Bond film Casino Royale. Reportedly, Branson is a huge fan of 007 and offered the production a plane when they were in a tight spot. In return, the producers allowed him to appear as a passenger getting flyby security in a scene at Miami Airport. Branson has made cameos in movies like Around the World in 80 Days and Superman Returns, but his appearance in Casino Royale is special for another reason. When it was played as an in-flight movie on British Airways, a competitor of Branson's Virgin Airlines, they airbrushed his cameo out of the film. Brad Pitt and Matt Damon in Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. When George Clooney made his directorial debut with Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, he tapped several of his famous friends to help him out. Julia Roberts and Drew Barrymore agreed to work for less than their usual salary, while character actor Sam Rockwell took on the lead role as TV producer Chuck Barris. But when it came time to cast the contestants on the dating game, he recruited his Ocean's 11 co-stars Brad Pitt and Matt Damon to play 2 of the contestants. Neither actor has any lines, but they both seem to be losing to a third, more homely contestant. Cameron Crowe and Cameron Diaz in Minority Report. After Tom Cruise collaborated with director Cameron Crowe on Vanilla Sky, he moved on to the sci-fi hit Minority Report with Steven Spielberg. For some reason, it seems as though he couldn't leave his old crew behind. When Cruise boards a train in the film, Crowe can be seen looking over his newspaper at him, and that blonde behind him, that's Cruise's Vanilla Sky co-star Cameron Diaz. Cruise's Magnolia director Paul Thomas Anderson was also on the train, but his cameo was cut from the final film. Nevertheless, you can find Scott Frank, the film's screenwriter, being told "you're the man" by a host of fake people as he lives out his fantasies in an artificial reality simulator. Danny Glover in Maverick. Maverick is a light-hearted comedy western about a card-sharp conman in the Wild West, and Mel Gibson brings his usual roguish charm and charisma to the lead role. The movie is chock full of cameos that many people wouldn't recognize today, including Corey Feldman and Margot Kidder. but one cameo sticks out more than the others. Who's that man behind the bandana who robs a bank in front of Gibson's character? It's none other than Danny Glover, Gibson's co-star from the Lethal Weapon series. The two actors look at each other as if they know each other, and Glover even utters his famous catchphrase from the Lethal Weapon movies,
I'm getting too old for this shit.
Chris Martin in Shaun of the Dead. Okay, if you've seen Shaun of the Dead recently, you probably noticed Coldplay's Chris Martin at the end of the film, when he and his Coldplay bandmate wear Zombade t-shirts. But Martin also appeared earlier in the film as one of the zombies chasing down Shaun and the gang as they escape from the Winchester. In fact, Martin isn't the only celebrity who appears in the zombie film, but the others, like Rob Brydon and Paul Putner, are only well known in the UK. Chris Martin also appeared on the soundtrack to the film, performing a cover of the Buzzcocks' Everybody's Happy Nowadays with the band Ash. Daniel Craig and many more in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Simon Pegg, star of Shaun of the Dead, is no stranger to cameos himself. He even appeared in the biggest film of last year, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Under a great deal of prosthetics, Pegg played Unkar Plutt, the junk dealer on Jakar that Rey deals with at the beginning of the film. Other celebrities who appeared in The Force Awakens include comedians Bill Hader and Ben Schwartz, who came up with the unique noises made by the show-stealing droid BB-8. Warwick Davis, who famously played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, is a patron at Maz Kanata's Cantina, and Hamilton scribe Lin-Manuel Miranda provides vocals for the Cantina's band. The most famous cameo, however, is James Bond himself, Daniel Craig, who's under the helmet of one of the stormtroopers guarding Rey on the Starkiller base. So how did you like our list? Did we miss any other sneaky cameos that most people wouldn't notice? Join the discussion in the comments below and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this one.